Welcome to Wildlife Outdoors with your host, Russell and Jose. If you have a passion for conservation of the outdoors, or you're enjoying a calming hike in the mountains, an exhilarating kayak trip on the river, feeling a fish on the end of your line, cooking on an open flame in a primitive campsite, or stalking big game, just waiting for the perfect shot, you're in the right place. So put on your boots and polarized sunglasses and come along for the ride.
Welcome back to another episode of the Wildlife Outdoors podcast. Today should be a good one as we are joined today by Stephen Lonon. Stephen is the co-owner of Osage Creek Camps, and he's also a fly fishing and hunting guide in Arkansas. He's retired Army, and he is also the backcountry hunters and anglers Armed Forces Initiative chapter leader. Did I get that right? That was a mouthful.
Yes, you did.
But yeah, so welcome, Stephen. We're glad to have you on the podcast.
Thanks, guys. Happy to be here. Found out about y'all through Rob McConnell, actually.
Oh, yeah, Rob. Good dude, man.
Yeah, he's a great dude.
Yeah. Actually, he's the one who introduced, he texted me one day. He goes, hey, man, I got this friend. I think he'd be a great guy to have on the podcast. He just took to fly fishing, just got ate up by it. Now he's in Arkansas doing this now. I was like, hey, yeah, dude, sounds awesome. And I reached out to Stephen, and this podcast has actually been a long time coming. It's just with all of our schedules, it's been hectic, but glad to say we're finally making it happen, man. So it should be a good one.
Definitely long time overdue. But it's what are the odds that it's another, Texas to Arkansas type of thing? Rob's down in Texas, Steven's up here in Arkansas, Jose's in Texas, I'm in Arkansas. It's like it was meant to be.
I didn't even make that connection. That's wild.
I tell people all the time I'm a recovering Texan, but like
it's something you can't ever recover from.
You're not going to take my food from me. Like, I'm not budging on the food.
Dude, you're not lying, man. I've heard that there's, good food up in Northwest Arkansas, and I've only been up there a few times, and that's, in comparison to Hot Springs, but it still doesn't even, hold a flame at all to Texas food in general. There's some good food, but it's not great.
We've got a lot of good spots around here. There's just certain things that, like, I know I can make better myself, and I'm going to save money by making it myself anyway, so that's just stay at home, pull out the Weber, throw it up. So it is what it is. That just means I get exposure to other stuff too. Like, dude, comfort food, especially Southern comfort food. Dude, chicken fried steak, I'm there all day. My favorite place is actually 2 minutes outside of my neighborhood. It's a place called Workman's. It's a gas station, but they've got this little diner in there, and that, like, I'm sure y'all's moms are nice ladies, but that chicken fried steak is slap your mama good.
Dude, I freaking love me some Southern comfort food.
I was about to say, man.
Top tier. If I have a long day, I want no fuss. That's where I'm going.
Yeah. That's awesome. There's a place in Little Rock called Bobby D's that is some great comfort food. And their pepper sauce is great. Their greens are good. Their chicken fried steak is good. Their macaroni and cheese is freaking amazing. Dude, it's so good. If you're ever in Little Rock, you should check out Bobby D's.
I'll check that out. I'm one of those stereotypical lactose intolerant people. There's certain things I'll make the sacrifice for. Good mac and cheese all the way, baby.
You ever try a smoked mac and cheese?
Dude, smoked mac and cheese is so good.
It's bomb, man.
See, and it's weird because I'm not really a cheese person as it is. Like,
I'll
eat cheese on pizza, nachos, and mac and cheese. The only cheese in a block that I'll eat is smoked cheddar. Still have little diamonds on the side of it. But other than that, I'm really not a big cheese fan, and I cannot stand half melted cheese, on a burger. You just throw cheese on. Oh, dude, I can't do it. It's a texture thing, I think.
I've got a trick for you. I learned it right before my family vacation this year. It's a Gordon Ramsay thing. So you take some butter and oil, you put it in your nonstick skillet, take your cheese, throw it down, and let it melt on the verge of is this too much? Right at that moment, put your burger bun down on that cheese and then twist it. And it's going to fry the cheese. It's going to melt perfectly to the bun. Take it off. You're good to go.
Dude,
it'll change your life.
So you get a little bit of that crunch.
I can't live without it now. Yeah, it gets crunchy, especially on the edges. It's good, dude.
Dude, that sounds really good.
Dude, I'm going to have to try that. That sounds really good.
It sounds like a stellar grilled cheese move too, man.
Mm-hmm.
Dude, I didn't even think about that.
You
I do
should.
like me some grilled cheese with some tomato basil soup
Oh yeah.
or a panini. I have a panini press, and I like to make a lot of paninis.
But it's gotta have sourdough bread for me though. Like that is for a good grilled cheese the best.
I've never liked sourdough bread until not this past summer, but the summer before. I went back home, back to Alaska, and sourdough is a huge thing up there. And I mean, sourdough pancakes, sourdough French toast, sourdough bread with every meal. Like it's sourdough. Like they have moving companies up there, sourdough moving companies, and sourdough gas station. Like I don't know. There. I'm sure there's something why it's like that, but I don't know. But there's sourdough freaking everywhere. And yeah, I started eating it in all these different foods, and I was like, I kind of like that, and I hated it before. Like I couldn't stand Schlotzsky's before.
Dude,
and
that's my favorite, man.
See, a lot of people were like, dude, Schlotzsky is so good. And I don't know, maybe it was a mental thing, but now I'm starting to get more into liking sourdough. So I might have to try grilled cheese with sourdough.
Yeah, that's my favorite. Or like in the morning, eggs in the basket with some sourdough bread, lightly toasted, whatever. Oh, yeah, dude, it's the best.
That sounds good.
Really good stuff.
So, well, enough about food. I mean, we'll sit here for hours and talk about food. You know me,
hungry,
but so we're talking about, you're obviously the co-owner of Osage Creek Camps and also Osage Creek Outfitters. So, how did you come about that?
So, I'm co-owner with my wife, and our marriage has been based around water from the beginning. We first got married. We lived in Brenham, Texas. And Lake Somerville, Jose will know, is a Corps of Engineers lake. It was about 7 minutes up the road from us. And this was during the lockdown of COVID. So there was nothing to do. So we just ended up spending our dinners or evenings at Lake Somerville fishing. I found out I'm too impatient for conventional tackle. There's only so many times I could throw out a Texas rig and reel it back in. Saw fly fishing, picked it up. It was just done. Have not been able to let it go. I go to sleep thinking about it. I wake up thinking about it. Osage Creek is right by my house. It's one of my home waters. It cuts right through Rogers, Lowell, and I was working as a guide at the time, and for me, there was a pretty big commute. I was driving about 45 minutes each way. But what was cool was our lodge's clients, they would bring their customers out to go fly fishing, right? And I was guiding for pheasant and quail at the time too. But the bulk of these people had never seen a fly rod before, much less picked one up. And there is this mental archetype, if you will. When you think of fly fishing, you think of like classic river runs through it. Mm-hmm. White dude that looks pretty wealthy in the middle of a stream, casting these beautiful casts. And I started fly fishing with a $50 fly rod from Amazon. And so it was rough starting. I was at that break point. Most people will get about 2 months in, and they're going to want to do one of two things usually, is reach out for help or just quit. So I drove out to Living Waters Fly Fishing in Austin, Texas, Round Rock, which is the benchmark that I compare fly shops to. Mm-hmm. And legendary guide Marcus Rodriguez was there, and he was just in between clients hanging out in the shop. I thought he worked there. He kind of does, but not really. And he spent about 45 minutes just casting with me and fixing my issue, and done. So where Osage came into fruition was I left that job. I was working in construction. I ended up losing that job, and I had been flirting, as everybody that is into fly fishing is, of, oh, maybe I should open up my guide service, or maybe I should open up a fly shop. I came home, and the day after, it was like past the feeling sorry for yourself period. Now you're starting to look for jobs again. Caroline, my wife, pulls me aside and is like, hey, how many times are you going to say that you wish you opened up your own thing, and just take this opportunity and go with it? So that was the push. My wife is awesome. So the skills that I learned from this lodge was that I am able to connect with people that are intimidated by this sport. I'm able to break it down in a way that is simple. I am able to identify common errors and use analogies and metaphors to help them fix the deal without getting frustrated. Um, so that translates naturally to teaching children how to fly fish. I see this often in different sports. Fathers will be trying to get their kids into something. The father is somewhat of an expert and gets frustrated by this child having issues with what they consider as basic, forgetting what it's like to be a total novice.
Mm-hmm.
And so the other factor is that I'm turning 34 in April. My time's going to come, dude. Like I'm going to be gone. These children are going to inherit the outdoors from us. And that's the void that I wanted to fill. That's where I wanted to make that connection. If we could teach these kids not just how to fly fish, but also to learn about native species, and we're not talking about just natives, we're talking about species that have been integrated into that sphere and have become naturalized.
Mm-hmm.
Plants, birds, everything. It's kind of like you have your home fishing spot, right? Like if you've got an afternoon to kill, you've got one spot that you like to go out. You go out and someone's trashed it, you get a little heated.
Yeah.
So if I could teach these kids the skills they need to just go out, enjoy the outdoors, and start identifying what's out there, how it all interacts, there's going to come a point in the coming years. We've got 36 people. This is official stats of moving to Arkansas a day. There's a lot of public land in Arkansas. It's one of my favorite parts about living here. I used to have to drive to the Sam Houston National Forest. That's how I met Rob. And here I have 7 within 35 minutes of my house. Housing is going to become an issue. Public land will start looking pretty appealing to housing officials that might want to sell it. If these kids, when they come into that time, have made memories there, know the benefits and connections that we get from going to the public land that our tax dollars pay for, they'll say, no, this is Arkansas public land. This is our public land. Let us keep making memories here with our families. So that's kind of the driving point behind Osage. It's basically I'm using fly fishing as a vehicle to teach people conservation.
I love that. Jose and I are extremely passionate about conservation in general. I like the fact that you talked about native species, because that's something that, I'm extremely passionate about. Native, not only, like you said, indigenous, but also naturalized species, and how they affect, the ecology of the area. And there's a lot of people out there that I don't know if it's due to just not caring or due to ignorance, but they just don't understand how things work and how God created this earth to pretty much balance itself. And human intervention is obviously gonna mess with it. And that's something that, obviously we have growing populations in the world. But if we can find our way to coexist with, nature, with wildlife, and have this mutually symbiotic relationship between humans and wildlife, I think is where we need to get. And if there's a way that we can use our podcast as a vehicle, just like you're using fly fishing as a vehicle, to get that message across to the younger generation, I feel like that's a great thing that we could do. And that's kind of what our goal is. And we've talked about this previously with other guests about how our goal is to get all this information out to the younger generation. And it's awesome to see that I have seen younger generations out there. I was fishing Hot Spring Creek here in the middle of Hot Springs one day and saw this 14, 15-year-old kid out there trying to teach himself how to fly fish, just knee deep in a creek. And I was like, that is freaking awesome. Because like you said earlier, it's typically the stereotypical fly fisherman is, the wealthy white guy in his 60s out there with, thousands of dollars of gear, just out there making these casts. And that's not necessarily the case anymore. Obviously you're still going to have that. And, especially if you're out there in your area, you go to the White River, you're going to see a lot of it. But there's a lot of times that I've seen people out there that you wouldn't expect to, for one, have a fly rod. They pull up in a truck blaring heavy metal music, and then they pull out a fly rod. You're like, yeah, it's my kind of guy, you just don't expect it. But, it's freaking awesome. And I think, just like you said, if we could get that information out there on conservation, like, it can keep these resources for generations to come.
Yeah,
absolutely. a perfect example of indigenous versus native special to our area, that's something that I care deeply about, is the Neosho smallmouth bass. It is only found in the Illinois watershed, and it is a creek specialist. In fact, there are some taxonomists that are trying to move it from smallmouth bass and make it its own separate species.
Oh, wow.
Where it gets a little jumbled is Oklahoma stocked 10 killer with a northern strain of smallmouth in the 90s. 10 killer is a lake. And Illinois River feeds into that lake. So those smallmouth have moved into the Illinois and are starting to hybridize and cannibalize the Neosho smallmouth. Why is this important to me? Because, Jose, how much did Texas spend last year trying to save the Guadalupe bass? Millions. And so we have this hyper-specific creek specialist type of Neosho that you cannot find anywhere else in the world. But because of a tournament angler attitude and a nearsightedness, we are now putting this species at risk. And it is becoming harder and harder. A friend of mine, Casey Brewster, he's helping lead the phenotyping and genetic sequencing of the different strains of smallmouth in Arkansas. It's becoming harder and harder to identify Neosho versus the hybrids. In fact, at this point, you almost can't distinguish them physically.
Oh, wow.
The one thing that you can depend on is that, and this is something that's hurting the Neosho, they take a much longer time to mature. You are looking at 3 years in a northern strain smallmouth. They're going to be 4 or 5 pounds. 3 year on a Neosho, it's hardly pushing 2 in the most part.
Yeah.
So the effects of what we do can cost generations species.
Oh, yeah.
I see. Is the Neosho the same species that would be down in like the Washita River and stuff like that? Or do you know if that's a different species?
They are creek specialists. They could be in there. They have become very well adapted to shallow water. So if the river is big enough that there's not a lot of crawfish in there, the Illinois River is a great example of this. Now, that's more of a silt thing that it can't sustain crawfish. But if it's big water, the Neosho, it's really not going to be in there.
Yeah.
Just because they are smaller.
Yeah, the Washita River is pretty skinny water. It's basically a creek. And then there's a lot of times that I've caught smallmouth out there that I don't think that I've seen a smallmouth above 20 inches in there. And
Right.
They're fairly small, and I've caught them on Little Mazarn Creek here in Hot Springs and a bunch of other little feeder creeks. So I wonder if it's the same species.
Does Washita, is that a tributary to the Illinois River?
I'm not 100% sure on that.
Because that's the big thing that'll help you distinguish is they are native to the Illinois River watershed. So if it doesn't connect to it, it's probably not a Neosho.
I see. That makes sense. I'll have to go and look that up.
I'm kind of hurting my business here. One of the best reads for fish identification and targeting is Fishes of Arkansas, put out by University of Arkansas. It will show you what watersheds fish live in, what kind of substrate or gravel they like to live in, what kind of flow they like, and then through the electrolysis testing, they pump the fish's stomachs and tell you the fish's contents.
Oh, wow.
So it makes choosing your lures and flies really easy.
Dude, that's a pretty detailed
That makes
book.
a lot of
That's
sense.
crazy.
Yeah. It's a textbook, dude. So be ready to buckle up for some reading.
That's pretty sweet.
That's freaking awesome, though. Sounds like I need to go pick that up. Yeah, I love chasing smallmouth. And I remember the first time that I caught a smallmouth, I didn't even know it was a smallmouth. And I was up here, it was right after I moved here. So I moved here, it seems like probably, close to the same time you did. I moved here I think 5 years ago, maybe. It was during the COVID time, or right before COVID. And so I moved up here and was out there fishing, and I caught this little bass, and I was catching a lot of little spots, a little spotted bass and largemouth bass. And I was like, that looks like a funny looking bass. I was like, I like the markings on it, and threw it back. And I always take pictures of stuff, and I took a picture of it. And I was like, that is not a largemouth. That's a freaking smallmouth. It was the first smallmouth I'd ever caught. It was pretty exciting.
That's awesome, man.
Yeah. And then I took Jose to get his first smallmouth over on the Buffalo.
Yeah. little like 8-incher, but
I was a
man,
buffalo man. It is either awesome or perilous,
Dude, it
is
was
the way I would
rough.
describe the
yeah, our
buffalo.
go was pretty rough. The weather was supposed to be good. The wind's supposed to be not that great, like warm days, all that stuff. When we got there at night, so we just set up camp. I mean, we just kind of hung out and stuff, took some photos of the Milky Way and things. Next morning, wake up and or that night, it got pretty freaking cold. Like it got cold. And we didn't really have the right gear either. Like we didn't have any sinking lines or anything like that. And that stretch is pretty deep. But we were like, well, I mean, we're already here. Let's just fish it. Let's see what happens. And we tried. The wind started ripping. I mean, Russell was anchored down and it was blowing him upstream. It was a
Oh my
mess, dude.
gosh.
So, I mean,
Yeah.
casting was just dang near impossible. Um, it was a rough day, but it was beautiful, man. I saw quite a few fish, just couldn't really get them to eat. I caught two, I think, that day. But they're gorgeous. The colors on those guys are unreal. Saw a huge smallmouth buffalo. I assume it was a smallmouth buffalo. That thing was massive. Um, it was a fun float, a beautiful float, and we've been talking about going again. This time a little more prepared, but yeah, our first go was pretty
Yeah.
rough.
Yeah, we got back to our campsite and our tent was like all mangled and there was like random logs and rocks tied to it. And I was like, what happened? And then a guy come walking over from the campsite next to us. He said, y'all stuff was flying away. And we literally had what was it, a 120 quart cooler inside and the wind was blowing it. Like, I mean, it was
That's
just,
wild.
it was like over 30, 35 mile per hour wind gust and
Yeah.
just terrorizing everything. But I mean, it was gorgeous, like he said, and it was a blast. We had a great time, but we need to go again. And it was weird because, so we did, I believe it was Tyler Bend down. And we hit a lot of shallow spots, but the spots that had water were holes, deep holes, and we just couldn't get down to the fish. So
Something that can help you all out in a pinch with that is if you don't have the sink tip or you forget it. Most stores will have a product from Rio. I'm sure the competitors have something as well. It's called VersaLeader, and it will help you drop. So they'll have the sink rate measured on the package, and you can throw that on and get a little extra oomph in your sink.
Good to know.
good to know.
No.
Yeah, I think I've seen something like that before.
Oh, you have? Yeah. The last time I went to, so Buffalo and I have a bad history. Um, I've had one successful float. I have two unsuccessful. Um, this phone is bricked because of my last Bayou or Buffalo outing. I use a boat paddleboard. I use their bug slinger, so it's kind of set up for fly fishing. Thing's awesome, but I dropped anchor and the flow rate was just unreal. I had seen a log maybe 10 yards upstream and I thought that I would have time to catch before that. Anchor snagged the log. I high sided, dumped everything. It was just a garage sale on the river. And I haven't been back since. I've been staying in some more tranquil waters, except for the Illinois. That is a beast. The
Really?
Illinois is a beast of a float. We have a canoe. It's an Osage canoe, and it's like 17 feet. It's aluminum. We went out there for a backcountry hunters and anglers event, and it had just rained. I felt like I was on the bobsled team, just no control, just along for the ride, hoping we make it. And my dog Max is terrified of canoes now because we slammed in that. I'm convinced every single boulder and tree stump that was available to slam into, and I didn't even get any fish. So
Dang.
not a good
That
trip for me.
sucks.
That's rough.
Yeah, I didn't get one fish on the Buffalo. So I've had very few trips that I've gotten skunked because I'm that guy. It's like, if I'm not catching anything, I'm going to throw the smallest fly I have and catch a green
Right.
sunfish or something, and I couldn't even do that on the Buffalo. It was a rough trip as well.
I'm big on one sunfish over getting skunked.
Oh,
You
Yep.
just got to get a point on
Got
the
to
board,
get
man.
something, man. Have you ever done the Casa Tot?
No, I have not.
Dude, that is such a gorgeous river. I've been once. We went a couple weeks ago. I'm actually releasing a YouTube video on it Wednesday. So today's Monday. By the time this episode comes out for you viewers, the YouTube video will be out. Go check it out, Wildlife Outdoors on YouTube. But yeah, I did a little travel video. I went camping with my girlfriend out there at the Casa Tot, and the water is this like perfect blue teal just, I mean, gorgeous color. The water itself is, I mean, crystal clear. There's smallmouth galore out there, but it hits like class 4 rapids sometimes. So we didn't float it. We camped it and backpacked it, but I would like to float it at some point, but it's not very pressured for fishing because of the rapids. So, but yeah, dude, I want to go bad.
Let me ask y'all something about the Texan to Arkansas experience, because I'm trying to figure out if this is universal. Were you surprised when people invited you out on your first float trip to find out that they were using kayaks and canoes, not inner tubes?
I've never been invited out on a float trip. I don't have very many friends here in Arkansas. No, I've gone out with a few guys, but they preface it with, "Hey, we're going kayak fishing." But yeah, no, I've never been invited to go out floating, recreational floating here before. So yeah, I haven't experienced that, but I have noticed that there's a lot more kayaks and canoes than there are.
Is that a thing for you, Stephen?
Yeah, man, doing the New Braunfels float, going up to green, grabbing an inner tube, just floating down. That's what I assumed was up here, and then they were like, "Oh yeah, we're using rafts and kayaks." And I was like, "What kind of water are we floating on, dude?"
Yeah, dude, I remember one time I was in Georgia, and I got invited to go tubing, and they were going snow tubing, and of course it was wintertime, and so when I got invited, I was just like, I'm not gonna go tubing in the wintertime. I mean, it wasn't cold, but there were some higher elevation spots there, I guess, and it got down to freezing temperatures, and they're like, "Yeah, we're gonna go tubing," and I was like, "Y'all are crazy." And then they like show up all bundled up, and I'm like, "Oh, y'all don't mean on the river." I felt like an idiot.
Tubing means a little different when in places where it doesn't snow.
Right. I do miss tubing, though. I haven't been tubing in years. Although there's a spot here on the Washita River from Remmel Dam at the bottom of Lake Catherine to Whitewater. There's a nice tube float that they do recreational tubing there.
Is that where
I've done it once on a kayak. Yeah, that's where we went with Joe.
Yeah.
And dude, there's bald eagles everywhere. The float's not bad at all. They do recreational flow because they generate from the dam. So you can do it in 3 to 4 hours. It's not a bad trip at all. So with Osage Creek camps, where did you get the name from? Because obviously the Osage Indians are up in that area, right?
Right. It's the Osage Creek.
I see.
That's where I got the inspiration from. I wanted something I wasn't joking about like the recovering Texan. We moved up here to become naturalized.
I see.
I grew up here. My dad's best friend was from Fayetteville. So as a child, I would come up here pretty often. And I love deeply Arkansas. And so between the Indians and the creek, it was an easy sell for me. Everything about us is Arkansan. Even on my logo design, the fly right here, that is a Dave Whitlock red squirrel nymph.
Nice.
So I wanted everything to be the real deal.
That's awesome.
So you grew up in Arkansas?
I grew up in Texas, but I grew up coming to Arkansas.
Oh, okay. I see. So what was it that made you guys decide to make the move to Arkansas?
So I'm going to try to make this condensed. So y'all remember getting the COVID checks?
Yeah.
So we used that while we were in Brenham to launch a very small cut flower operation. So growing zinnias, daisies, sunflowers, the kind of stuff that you would see either in a florist or at weddings, that kind of deal. Mm-hmm. Figured out we had a knack for it. So it was kind of like, where can we go and do this full scale? Because Texas is brutal on flowers. It just gets so hot. Kudzu does great in Texas. But we were honeymooning at Big Cedar Lodge in Branson, Missouri. Drove back through. I hadn't been up here in a couple years. Just fell in love with it. This was probably like 2020. And it was just beautiful. We were looking at each other like, how does nobody know this is here? And so we moved up here in August. And August 21. And unfortunately, about 3 months after that, that's when that article came out dropping Fayetteville as one of the top 10 places to live in the U.S. And since then, the rent's gone up, boys. But we love it, man. Yeah. It's nice coming from a city of 9 million people to like, dude, little things like my wife works at Christ Church in Fayetteville, so she commutes about 20 minutes a day.
Mm-hmm.
And people will be telling her, bless your heart that you have to drive 22 minutes to work. And I'm like, dude, that is chump change.
Yeah.
That's what brought us up here, man. It's just the beauty of it. It's way better than a lack of topography and nothing but pine trees, mosquitoes, and copperheads.
Yeah. Yeah, that's one thing that when we moved up here and we went back, so we took just the necessities when we first moved up here. And I still own my house back in San Marcos, Texas. And so I just left everything there. And we planned on making a trip back to get everything. And it ended up being a while before we were able to do that. And I put the house on the market for rent. So I was going to rent it out. So I had to go and get everything out of it. And when we're driving back, my kids were both like, I never realized how ugly Texas was compared to Arkansas. Because driving down I-35 south of Austin, you start getting, Buda and Kyle and San Marcos. It's just a lot of farmland. So it's flat. And then after they've already harvested, everything's just brown. Well, we're, by that time already used to being up here in the Ouachita Mountains and everything's green, and we're at the Tri-Lakes area. So there's water everywhere. And you got the mimosa trees here and you got pink flowers everywhere. And it is gorgeous here. The water here is so clean. I'm not saying that it's not, because San Marcos River is clear as can be, but it's very different topography wise. And so my kids had mentioned that, and I was like, yeah. And then so every time I've been back to Texas since, I think about that. It's like, yeah, it does look a lot different. But if I were to choose anywhere to be in Arkansas, it would definitely be Northwest Arkansas. I like Hot Springs, but I love Northwest Arkansas. Being up in the Ozarks, it's just gorgeous up there.
It's the place to be, dude. We're on the Ozark Plateau, so you're getting I'm not going to spot bust, but I've found a couple spots where like native Ozark prairie that has been untouched.
That's awesome.
Is still there. So you just got gravel with tiny little shrubs and wildflowers all over it, cone flowers the size of my fist. Jeez. And it's something else, man.
Dude, that's so cool.
A large motivator of moving here was while I was in the Army, I was stationed up in Alaska. So obviously mountains just out there every weekend. My wife was at college in Virginia. Same deal. Appalachian mountains were right there. Mm-hmm. So coming back to Houston could be a little underwhelming. I tell people all the time, I miss the people dearly. I do not miss the landscape.
Yep.
Yeah, man, I remember when Russ was getting ready to move, we went with him, me, my brother, and my nephew, to help him move. We got in to Hot Springs late at night, like it was dark. We spent all day driving pretty much. So we didn't really get to see anything when we drove in. So the next morning we woke up and then we decided to go check out town and just get the lay of the land, so to speak. And it was gorgeous, man. There is like I guess they don't call Arkansas the natural state for nothing. It's a beautiful place. Right. Everybody I've met that has been to Arkansas, spent any kind of time in Arkansas, they all love it. In fact, Russ and I, we used to have a teacher in high school. He and his wife would go to Eureka Springs every year to go trout fishing and stuff. And he always joked that he was going to like retire there and whatever. And sure enough, like as soon as he retired, he sold his house, moved up to Eureka Springs. And I think he's now not a fly fishing guide, but a fishing guide up there. And yeah, doing the thing. And then I think there was a guide in Texas who retired and is now living in Arkansas or moving up to Arkansas or something. And but yeah, man, Arkansas is a cool place. I really, really enjoyed going up there. I haven't been in almost a year now, but it's beautiful, dude. That being said, there are like beautiful parts of Texas. I'm gonna be a homer. I don't care, dude. But yeah, no, like the cityscapes, like Austin, Houston, not my thing. But I love the hill country, yep. the small towns like San Saba and stuff like that. Llano, I mean, gorgeous places, beautiful landscapes, gorgeous, but definitely doesn't have the terrain or the greenery that you get in Arkansas. There is a certain magic to it. Beautiful, man. Beautiful state. A lot going on.
Yeah, it's awesome unless you're thinking about moving here, in which case it sucks. Stay where you are. Don't do that. The grass isn't greener. Texas has biodiversity You just have to look for
Okay.
it.
Mhm.
One of the most significant sticking factors of fly fishing for me was my friendship with Rob McConnell. He had his book Fly Fishing the Sam out at the time, and I went to go check out a couple spots. Just shot him a DM, like, "Hey man, this spot's flooded right now. The mosquitoes are bad." I kept it short, but dude, I have distinct memories of uh, going to this spot with my dog and a literal cloud about the size of a basketball of mosquitoes following us on the trail. And I've never seen my dog's ears pinned back like that. If we stopped moving, we were just, I felt like we were going to be carried off into the horizon. Um, but that was awesome. Going to Bushy Creek, or sorry, not Bushy Creek. I love that spot too. Big Creek in the Sam Houston National Forest, throwing out what we could and seeing what kind of species we could get. He actually ended up helping me out because before I was moving, I had a list of Texan fish that I wanted to catch, and the red spotted sunfish was on there. It's only in South Texas in the San Jacinto watershed. So you have to go to a very specific spot in Sam Houston. We were out there the full day. He caught some like Walmart warmouth that he was geeking out on. If you ever want to get Robert geeked and mess with him a little bit, just tell him you saw a pickerel. He's going to go nuts. He'll spend like 45 minutes walking in around the same spot trying to find it. But we pulled it, and it was maybe that red spotted sunfish was maybe an inch and a half. But that thing was the most beautiful fish in the world to me, dude, because I worked so freaking hard. It was like 3 or 4 outings trying to get this fish.
Yeah.
That's nuts.
Dude, yeah, there was actually that was one of the first fish that I caught with Rob. So me, my roommate, my buddy Xavier, during COVID, we didn't have a whole lot going on, and we were just fishing locally, like some spots, like ponds and things. But they got kind of old, and then I somehow stumbled upon the book Fly Fishing the Sam Houston. I don't remember if he posted or somebody posted it. But I was like, oh, that's pretty interesting. So I checked it out, ended up buying it, and read it. And we actually went to the San Jack. That was fairly close to us. And he and I went out there. We just explored a very small portion of it, caught some fish, but nothing crazy. And we went back and and then we just posted something on Instagram. Rob got in contact with us, and he invited us to go back out with him, and he was going to show us around. So we did, and that trip that we did, the first trip that we did with Rob, I ended up catching a super small red spotted, like maybe like that, like an inch. And but I had no idea what it was. I was like, because we had caught long ear and some other panfish, but nothing looked like that. I was like, what is this? It just looked different. And then Rob got super stoked. He goes, dude, I think it's a red spot. And he got like super excited about this little 1 inch fish sitting in the basket of the net. And it was so small. We took the fly out of its mouth and just slipped through one of the holes, and it was gone. So we couldn't even get a picture of it. But yeah, those things are so beautiful, man. And Sam Houston's, I've mentioned this before in other episodes. It's a really cool little fishery that people don't really know about. And
Right.
yeah, man, the spotted bass in that creek are a lot of fun. I mean, it's just a really cool place.
It's awesome because you have a wide range. You have streams in Sam Houston that are maybe 3 feet wide. And then you have what is almost big water at other parts too. And you're pulling out everything from warmouth to long ear, red spotted sunfish, channel catfish, bass, two different kinds of bass actually. The spot is awesome.
It is awesome.
I've
man.
never been. I need to make a trip over there.
Next time you come to Texas, dude.
No, I need to for sure.
So, Steven, you left Brenham to go to Arkansas,
Correct.
but you mentioned that you like got into fly fishing kind of during the COVID time. So, like, how did you see it, or how did you get introduced to it, and what was it about it that like you just got like so ate up by, and you were like, all right, I got to do something with this at some point.
So I want to state that I am a Mad River Outfitters student. That was my guiding hand,
Me
as
too.
y'all know. Yeah, that's right. That's right. Shout out to Brian Fleshig.
Absolutely.
For me, it was just we didn't have a boat, so I'm bank fishing. There's this one really sweet spot on Lake Somerville on the private side where there's kind of an inlet and fish will get pushed in. There's a ton of reeds, and that's kind of like the secluded spot. The deer will come out to that area because there's a lot of cover, and the wind will push all the fish up that way. But I got bored of the Texas rig and just wanted something that, frankly, I could do with my hands because I can't sit still. So I don't remember what made me think of fly fishing. It was just that I was an online student. I was getting my GI Bill, so I had a little spending money. $50 for a buy-in. Let's give it a shot. And dude, it's just, I mean, you guys get it. All fly fishers will get it.
Yep.
There is something about it that is charming. It is a connection. I think the way I've best explained it is once you're confident in your casting, right? So you're no longer frustrated 24/7. You are still focusing on your casting when you're competent, and it becomes almost like a form of active meditation.
Yep.
You have to tune everything else out. If you get distracted in the middle of the cast, you make a small error, you are going to be rewarded by a tree or a slap on the water, and you're busting your spot. So I think that was the appeal for me, was what can be the stillness and being present that comes with fly fishing. I think that was the ultimate draw. Past that, I didn't know anybody that fly fished. Come to find out, about 6 months later, I was just casually bringing up to my grandfather that I fly fish. He's an OG. Like, grew up dirt poor in Texas, won his rods by competing because he couldn't afford to buy them.
Wow.
So we had a little cool connection there. But Rob was my guy for fly fishing. And then my best friend, Roberto Martinez, he was a pretty accomplished bass angler. I was like, dude, you got to try it. You got to try it. I took him out to Fort Sam Houston. He's all decked out. He's got his neck gaiter over his face. And we're using a 9'5" because I only had one rod at the time. And he pulls out maybe a 3-inch long ear. But he turns around. I've got it on video. And I can see his face split in half by that grin through the net gator. And he's sold most of his rods now and is just straight up fly.
That's awesome.
Dude, it gets in you, man.
It does.
I haven't met anybody who's tried it and was like, yeah, nah, this ain't for me. It's usually the opposite. They're like, nah, dude, this is the only thing I want to do from here on out.
Right. The hard thing with converting people from conventional is there will be a time period normally that people keep their old gear as a safety net. Oh, it's too difficult for casting right now. You just got to kind of make a commitment and say, I'm not bringing it. I'm going to master this.
That's where I'm at. I mean, I still have a closet full of conventional gear that I can't remember the last time that I've used it. Cause for one, I just don't care to use it. It's not as challenging to me. Like, I feel like I'm more of a part of nature when I'm out there fly fishing. I mean, anybody can go buy a $15 Rapala and fool any fish into biting, but there's just so much more that you have to be mentally present for when you're fly fishing. And It's a challenge. And I don't know. The only thing I can think is it's the challenge and you feel the fish a lot more is what got me hooked into it. Jose is the one that got me into fly fishing. And, he got me into it. We were over there on the Blanco River and I was using my bait caster and he was fly fishing and I wasn't catching nothing. And he was pulling fish out left and right. And I'm like, what am I doing wrong? Like, I've fished this river so many times. Like, I live right here by the river. And he's like, hey, man, you want to try this? And I was like, I don't know what to do with that thing. And he's like, well, I mean, just basically fling it out there because it was small water. And I just flung it out there first cast, caught a little, 10 to 12 inch bass. And I've been hooked ever since. Like, it was freaking exciting.
It's awesome. It's more visceral because we're using lighter test. So we're using the rod to fight the fish. And I think that's what really is a connecting point of fly fishing is we're feeling the fish more.
Yep. Absolutely.
It's more intimate.
I love taking the little 2-weight glass rod out and catching
Oh,
brim,
yeah.
dude. It's so much fun. Hell, I have a video floating around out there somewhere of me catching like a 16-inch channel cat on a 2-weight glass rod, completely doubled over, peel and drag. Dude, it was so much fun. It was actually there in Houston. It was at a retention pond in Houston. Well, actually, like Richmond, Rosenberg area, but basically Houston. So, yeah, freaking blast catching a channel catfish on a 2-weight glass.
Dude, those catfish pull.
That's what's a lot of fun is for an urban fly fisher is in Houston, especially in the spring area, there's a ton of gullies and feeder kind of streams, and you got them in your neighborhood. You can go down there with that 2-weight, and people will walk by and be like, "Oh, I never would have thought of fishing that out there. I've got a trip in Colorado in 6 months. Maybe I should practice down there." It's like, dude, come on.
Yep.
They're in here. Let's go.
It's here waiting.
I think something that would be really cool is catching one of Houston's like ancient alligator gar, like the ones that reach 7-8 feet.
Mm-hmm.
That on a fly rod. Oh my
Dude,
god,
that would be
dude.
insane.
Talk about a ditch tarpon, man. That would be epic.
Right, man.
Epic.
I was casting at some of them in Venice, Louisiana one time, and they were just true dinosaurs. The boat didn't even scare them. You know, I was out there, we were with a redfish guide, and we weren't seeing any reds, and just these massive 7-8 foot alligator gar cruising by, and I'm just trying to slap my fly next to them, like just to, you know, try to make them mad and get them to bite. I mean, it was just, I wanted one so bad. I mean, they're 10 feet away, but they wanted nothing to do with the fly.
They don't get old and dumb or old and big by being dumb.
That's true.
Very true. Yeah, those things, I mean, God, it's hard to believe that they have changed very little from their inception pretty much. They are like literal dinosaurs, but they're just
Right.
and one it's also very cool to know that or to be able to call them native to Texas. Like these fish are just incredible creatures. And I've seen videos of people catching them, and for their size, it's crazy how acrobatic those things can be. It is
Right.
insane, dude. Like they'll tail walk when they're hooked up. It's wild. It's wild.
Yeah, it's crazy. Have y'all seen that article of the guy that caught the melanistic alligator gar?
I've seen the photo, never read the
No.
article.
Dude, it looks crazy. It's completely black with like a white mouth. And dude, I'll have to find the article and I'll put it in the description, but I'll send it to you, Steven.
Didn't he
Dude,
catch it?
Dude, that's
Didn't
sick.
he catch it somewhere near Houston too?
I think so, yeah.
Yeah,
He caught it in Texas.
I know that guy caught that 80-year-old, 180 something pound gar in Houston.
really.
It looked like it was a Tice. I don't know if they ever released it, but it looked like, Cypress Creek. It looked like he caught it in Cypress Creek.
Wow.
That's crazy. Dude, I've talked to people that go out there and night fish for him, and I would love to fight one on a fly rod. I mean, I caught a 50 plus inch redfish on the fly rod on a 9-weight, and that was fun. But I just feel like a freaking 7-8 foot alligator gar would fight much more than that.
Dude, I've hooked so many gar. I have yet to land one. Not just alligator. I think mainly spotted. I've never hooked an alligator, but
Yeah,
their mouths are so hard. I just never been able to get a good hook set and keep one on for longer than probably like a minute. They've been giving me so much trouble. That's a fish I want to catch too. Just in general, I don't care what kind of gar it is. I just want to catch one.
same. We have a bunch of spotted gar here that are right behind my apartment that I need to get on. But dude, was it you that was telling me, Jose, that you were talking to somebody that said put a small trailer hook?
Yeah, I
To hook 'em?
can't remember who it was. I was talking to her, if I read it or whatever, but they would tie almost like a 2-fly, right? But they would hide like a little stinger hook, like a size 8 or size 10 in the
Mhm.
back of the fly. And they have more success with that than a traditional hook, I guess, because it's smaller hooks penetrate better because it's more
Mhm.
like smaller surface area and all that stuff, and they're really sharp. Than a bigger hook that you actually have to apply more force to break in to get penetration. But yeah, they did that because I told him, I was like, look, I don't like I understand yarn flies are effective, but I don't want to do that. I don't like the idea of it. And he's like, yeah, dude, give it a shot. Just tie in like a little size 8, size 10 stinger hook, and dude, you should be able to catch him with that. I never have. Yeah, I've yet to do it.
Well, I got probably 2-3 more months till they come back, and I'm gonna have to definitely try that out. So, but Steven, so you were talking about you were stationed in Alaska. What part of Alaska were you stationed at?
I was stationed in Anchorage, Alaska, at Joint Base Elmendorf Richardson.
Nice.
It was awesome. I loved my time there. I still can't believe that for 5 years I got paid to live in Alaska.
That's awesome. I like Anchorage.
Did you get to do some fishing while you're up there?
So it's one of my biggest regrets in life, Jose. Thank you for bringing that up to me. Is that I did not know how to hunt or fish at that point in my life. So I will be looking on those years fondly with all of my backpacking and rock climbing, and I did some ultralight stuff too. Now I'm too old for that; my joints hurt. But nope, no fishing or hunting.
So you're a fishing and hunting guide. How, like, when did you pick that up? The fishing and the hunting. Like, what? I guess I have two questions. Like, when? Like, what was it that made you? Like, when did you pick it up? But also, what was it that made you decide to kind of get into that?
So at this point, on the hunting guide has kind of taken a hiatus. That just really is. I'm taking my friends out with me if they're inexperienced, and I'll help them set up and kind of deal. And just say, set up on this tree, wait for this, don't shoot it if it has this. Um, I came to Arkansas. I was working construction for a while, labor. I ended up having shoulder reconstruction surgery because of the the injury that terminated my Army career. And obviously, I had to leave that job. I was at a backcountry hunters and anglers event. I was there for the purpose of networking to find a job. Friend told me that his lodge was short a guide, and if I felt confident enough to teach people how to fly fish, told him yeah. So Spring Valley is the name of the lodge that I worked for. They are based out of Decatur, Gravette area of Arkansas. Um, those were awesome years for me. I got to work with a bunch of good dudes. There's something about the camaraderie in the military. Guides kind of have it. I would imagine that firefighters feel the same way. But like we're out there, it's terrible weather. The client's treating us like garbage, and we just have to put up for it with it for a little bit. And then our chef, shout out to Victor Castro, we would come back and he'd have like surf and turf waiting for the guests, but he'd like save a little for the guides. So we just go into our little guide room and we just be shooting the breeze, eating, and just joking about stuff. It was awesome opportunity. It taught me a lot about myself. If it wasn't for that, I probably still would have ended up guiding. I don't think I would have done it very soon. I think it would have been, oh, I'm retiring from corporate for 20 years. I'm going to guide on the weekends. This was definitely a push that was beneficial. On the pheasant and quail, that was more of a, we're setting the birds out 3-ish hours before the clients get there or are ready to hunt. And then we're going out in the field with the dogs to work those birds. I love fly fishing. There is something about upland bird hunting that just touches my soul in a way that nothing else does. And I think it's watching the dogs work. I love watching them catch a scent. And then there's this thing, Russell, I don't know how familiar you are with upland bird hunting, but you're normally using 2 or 3 dogs. There's this thing called breadcrumbing, where a dog will spot a bird and will point. Next dog will see that dog pointing and will point at that dog, and then it comes down the line. It is the coolest thing to watch.
That's awesome.
Because those dogs are hyped up, ready to go, and you can see by the quiver of their legs and their tail that it is all of their self-control that is preventing them from going after this bird. And they're just begging you, please send me. I am ready. It's awesome. Bird hunting is
You ever try waterfowl
The
hunting?
only bird hunting I've ever done is dove hunting. So haven't experienced that, but did I want to?
That was my first like hunting foray was Caroline taught me how to dove hunt her parents' property.
That's awesome.
Have you ever been waterfowl hunting?
Once. I went out with a group called Darby's Warrior Support. They are a veteran duck hunting outfitter based out of Stuttgart area. I had a great time. We had too many people in our group, and just people couldn't sit still. So we walked away, I think, with 5 birds. Caroline had it rough. This is a group that only serves traditionally special operations veterans. So all male, most of them were pretty big dudes. So Caroline's gloves and boots were oversized. So she was freezing cold the whole time. So she was like, I think I'm ready to try other forms of hunting before I go back to duck hunting.
Right.
Dude, duck hunters are a special breed, man. They're something else. They're kind of like steelheaders, I guess, for like the fly fishing equivalent. Those guys
Right.
are hardcore. Duck hunters the same. The worse the weather, the better for them. But yeah, I myself, I've never been upland bird hunting like for pheasants or quail. I feel like I would love it. I don't know, that to me, 'cause I like bird hunting in general, like dove hunting, love it. Duck hunting, one of my favorites. Never had the chance to go upland hunting. But man, there is something about watching dogs work. Like we would take in college, we'd go duck hunting on the coast a lot. My buddy bought a black lab, named him
Sigh.
Psy. And after the Duck Dynasty,
Of course.
and he taught him how to retrieve and all that stuff. And dude, watching that dog, like, because I mean that's what labs are for. They're retrievers, right? But watching them to
Right.
like fulfill their purpose and like how much joy it brings them to do so, it's just incredible, man. Like whenever we'd get ready, like my buddy would go in the room, come out with his gun case, dude. That dog would just like, all right, it's time to go. He'd be waiting by the door, dude, shaking like he was ready. It was so awesome to watch him. Great dog. And but yeah, so I can see what you mean, Stephen. Like that, just I've never seen upland bird dogs work, but I feel like that'd be just one of the coolest things to watch.
It is great because they're running through the Milo. So the Milo is like 4, 5, 6 feet tall, and they're like jumping like kangaroos, trying to get their nose out to catch the scent. And then they'll be in the middle of a hop. They'll catch the scent and then turn their body in midair and just take off. It's awesome. It's kind of funny looking.
Dude,
That's so cool.
I will say, although I got into bow hunting last year. I love that. Squirrel hunting is always going to be my number one.
Really?
I love squirrel hunting. Small game is great. Squirrel is something else, dude. That's the pinnacle for me.
Never tried that.
Did you ever hunt squirrels with Rob?
No, I did not.
He was talking about him. He likes squirrel hunting down there in Sam Houston.
He's my guy for squirrel tips. I found out. I don't know if I should talk to a lawyer about before I say this. We were living in the suburbs of Houston, kind of low income neighborhood. We had 2 orange trees in the back of the house that we were renting from, and squirrels. So in Texas, we have nothing but fox squirrels. There's some like gray squirrels in the north, but it's all fox. They were coming through and just destroying our orange trees. At first, it was kind of cute. It was almost cartoonish. They'd come up under an orange and they'd sit on their butt and then like reach their hands up, grab it, and then peel it like Bugs Bunny eating corn cob style, like the peels flipping over their shoulder. And then once they had the orange opened up a little bit, they would just take their head and just shove it in the hole of the orange and just eat it that way. So for a while, it was kind of cute. Then I realized I went from like 300 oranges to maybe like 20. And I tried a lot of different options. I tried setting out traps. Turns out I'm just not a good trapper. Yelling at them, letting the dog out, throwing rocks at them. And I was going to keep my oranges one way or the other. So I just pulled out my 22 and I just started popping them from the back door. And it was one of those sayings that established my philosophy in who I am on hunting. I remember I shot my first one, and it was I just killed this animal. I'm not going to waste it.
Yeah.
And so my wife and I had never tried squirrel before. Squirrel dumplings are a standard, but I wanted to get a little bougie with it just because my wife, I was already impressed that she was willing to try it, but I wanted to make sure it was a good first try. So I made a French mustard gravy that you would normally prepare rabbit with. As a fallback, we threw in a couple of chicken thighs with it just in case we didn't like it. We'd still have something to eat. We didn't touch the chicken thigh. Like, I didn't want to eat it.
That's awesome.
And so that was where the squirrel hunting obsession came. I love it.
That's awesome. Yeah, dude, I've gotten a couple squirrels with a blowgun in a suburban neighborhood, so I'm not sending
blowgun?
Yeah.
That is metal. That is awesome.
I freaking love a blowgun, dude. So we bought them actually kind of as like a joke thing because I saw online that you can get blowguns. I still have it. It's like right here in my closet. So we bought these blowguns with paintballs. So we could go in on the back of Jose's parents' property, and me, him, and his brother could have paintball fights with blowguns, and it was a blast. Except for the fact that the paintballs wouldn't bust. They would hurt, but they wouldn't bust.
Right.
But it also came with they call them broadheads. They're basically a simple blow dart with a pinched end, so it's a little bit wider. And I've gotten. I mean, now that I know about conservation and laws and stuff like that, I don't condone this, but I was like 18 years old, didn't know any better, was out shooting dove and squirrel in the neighborhood with a blowgun. And I'll tell you, That's dove awesome. Is a resilient animal. There was one that I put 4 darts in before I got it. And the only reason I got it is because the 4th dart pierced its wing. The other 3 were sticking out of its chest, and it was just hopping around from rooftop to rooftop. Like, dove are resilient.
Dude, Eurasian collared dove are really tough too, man. There was one time we were going out, we were hunting in South Texas. It was for this, it was the Challenge Sportsmen of America. We would volunteer and we would like essentially be the bird dogs. We would just go out and pick up the birds and clean the birds for the participants. But every now and again, you'll get a participant who they didn't care. They just want to have a good time. So they would like look at us like, hey, hunt with me. We're like, all right, cool. So I didn't have a gun, but this guy was like, I got an extra one. It was a little Yieldy's 20 gauge. And dude, there's a Eurasian dove flying, and I popped it twice. I know I hit it because I saw feathers both times come off it. I was like, dude, there is no way this thing's still flying. So I watched it. This thing flew like 400 yards across the canal into the neighbor's like farmland, and then I just see it just dive, like take a nosedive. I was like, well, I can't get, dude. I couldn't get across the canal. Bait. Yeah, there's no way, man. I was like, Jesus, those things are wildly tough. It's insane.
Dude, I freaking love shooting collared dove. For one, because no limits. Secondary, they have a lot more meat than a typical, morning or white wing. Like, they're almost like eating a pigeon, dude. And I like pigeons too.
Huge.
Yeah, dude, pigeons are great if you're in the country. I would never eat a city pigeon. But if you're eating a grain-fed pigeon out, dude, they're amazing because their freaking breasts are so huge. It's just like dark meat chicken, you get a bunch of it on there. I love eating pigeon.
When we would hunt in Kingsville, there was a landowner who'd let us hunt on his place, and he would get some pigeons on occasion from time to time. And I remember my buddy shot one, and we were comparing the breast of the dove. Well, actually, we shot 3. We shot a Eurasian, a pigeon, and a regular morning. Dude, we were looking at the breast of all 3. The differences are noticeable. The pigeon is so huge. It's crazy.
Almost like a freaking Cornish hen.
Yeah, pretty much. It's wild, dude.
Yeah.
But speaking of squirrels, you ever seen that guy on YouTube? He built a catapult. It would launch the squirrels off his head.
Yes, dude.
I forgot about that dude.
And there's another guy. He built an obstacle course for these
yes.
For these squirrels. They're like, well, if they're gonna get to my feeder, they're gonna have to earn it. So he built all the like wipeout style like obstacle courses. And he would have cameras out there watching it. It was awesome, dude.
The quality of it was crazy. Like, you got to think how much money he put into the cameras for this freaking obstacle course for the squirrels. It's crazy how accurate they are.
Yeah, those little guys are wild.
It's like a squirrel Rube Goldberg machine. Like, he makes it so extra.
Yeah, dude. But that's what makes me love it.
It should be its own like Netflix special, man. It was great.
I would, dude, absolutely. That is a streaming service that I would pay for.
Dude, heck
squirrel shenanigans and catapults.
Well, it's like that. You ever seen that or heard of that bear competition up in Alaska? Like every year they see which bear can get the fattest, and they have like different competitors.
Fat
and people,
Bear Week.
Yeah, and people vote on them and stuff. Dude, some of those things are tanks, like massive.
Dude, it's crazy how big some of them can get, and it's weird because they're always like once they get really big, they're always like pear shaped, and they just look so funny. They're just like a blob on the bottom.
Very rotund, those fellas.
Oh, for sure. Dude, I want to get a bear too. I've heard bear roast is really good.
They say black bear when the blueberries are in season. Apparently, it's like some of the best fat that you can get. Like even the fat turns almost like that bluish purple hue, but also get some of the sweetness from the berries. So people will like take the bear meat and then cook it in that blueberry-ish bear fat, and they say it's just incredible. Like some of the best bear meat or meat in general you can get.
Dude, that sounds good.
I would say that that's definitely something you could do in Alaska. That was like one of the best parts. Hiking in Alaska in the springtime, the blueberries are just out there, so you could walk along the trail, pick stuff up. Here in Arkansas, though, I think they eat a lot of trash, man. That was we went on a spring bear hunt this year or 6 months ago, whatever. And we had been setting up bait for a week, 2 weeks. We were trying to give these bears diabetes, dude. We were throwing out all kinds of Hostess and like just syrup. But the day we got in our stands was the day that the oak trees decided to drop their acorns.
Oh, nice.
And I was really upset, not just because I knew the bears weren't going to come. It was mostly because my wife had said, like, the day I was leaving, if we're having a baby, especially a boy, I think a bear rug would look really cool in the nursery. And I was like, I've let down my son. I've let down my child.
Damn. So I guess it's safe to say that you didn't get a bear.
I did not get a bear, but we're going out again.
Well, when does bear season end?
So there's spring and I think fall bear seasons. Spring this year was measured by quota. So I think there were 300 tags, if I remember correctly, released by Arkansas. So each day that you were going to hunt, you had to check to make sure that the quota had not been reached. I'm not sure how the fall season works. Maybe it's a winter season. I'm not really sure.
Interesting.
That was my first foray into bear hunting.
I see.
Going like can you do? Is it like archery or general? Like you can kind of use whatever.
The spring one was archery only.
Gotcha.
If I'm remembering correctly, I'm pretty sure it took a long time for the quota to be filled. So it actually bled into muzzleloader season for a bear. But the spring one's definitely archery only.
Dude, that would be exhilarating to go freaking archery hunting for a bear. Granted, black bears different than brown bears and grizzlies and whatnot, but nonetheless, it's still a freaking bear. It's close quarters.
Right. Is trichinosis in the black bears bad up there in Arkansas?
I mean, it's present, but think about it this way: trichinosis is present in pork too.
That's true.
So it's there, but if you're cooking your meat properly, it's not a big deal.
Yeah.
And typically, if you're cooking bear, you're not going to be eating it, rare, are you?
Right. Unless, maybe like for like back straps or something.
Mm-hmm.
But I mean, I've got a freezer full of feral hog right now, and I ain't worried about trick from that. You know what I mean?
Yep.
So it's going to get ate.
Yep.
That's for sure. Dude, wild hogs is surprisingly pretty good. I really enjoyed the hog that I've had. I know a lot of people don't like it.
I've only had it a few times that I really liked.
Yeah. I know a lot of people aren't really into it, but I can't say I've ever had a wild boar dish that I didn't like or that was bad. Like it's been pretty good.
I am disheartened to find them more and more often in Arkansas. I have a friend that his dad has property out in Chapel Hill, and part of that is crops and orchards. He also raises deer out there, but he has lost tens of thousands of dollars to hogs, and I have a little beef with Texas's management of hogs just because they've allowed for the commercial hunting. That just means that those people have no incentive to actually rid the hog issue.
Mm-hmm.
Arkansas, I'm very proud of them. There's no commercial hunting allowed, and it is only season appropriate equipment that you can take them with. But I mean, I saw them in Weddington last year. There was about 12 of them, big old sow leading them in front. I was out squirrel hunting. I just had my 22. I might get some hate for this. I don't care. I hate hogs. I dumped my whole mag of 22 into as many of them as I saw, just because they cause so much damage. They kill quail, they kill turkey, any ground dwelling bird or animal, they will destroy it. They kill plants by the root. It is irreparable damage that they cause. And that being said, Arkansas hog, there's a lot of acorns that they've been eating, a lot of fungus too, because of how wooded this area is.
Yeah.
I made a roast for some friends last week and trussed it up real nice, threw on some rosemary in there. Dude, it's good. It's like nutty, earthy, savory meat.
Was that the one that you sent or showed Russell and I?
That's the one I sent that picture
Dude,
of.
that
Yeah.
one looked really good. I was like,
It did.
So you're like a chef in that home. Like you can throw down.
Your boy can cook. I'm not a chef, but I know my way in the kitchen.
Was that something that you did before getting into hunting and fishing, or was that like something
that was while I was in Alaska? My first winter up there, I spent restoring a truck, and then my second winter, I had gotten into snowboarding, but there was a time where I went without a vehicle, so I couldn't drive out to Alyeska, which was about an hour and 15 minutes away to snowboard. So that was right about the time where I had my first shoulder injury. Someone leaked all of Gordon Ramsay's educational videos onto YouTube, and so that winter, I just stayed inside and learned to cook. I love it.
That's awesome.
Cooking is probably my favorite way to serve people. Like, that is the peak for me, is getting to find out what someone's favorite food is and then make it for them, and then just watch the reaction. Because food is something human, right?
Mm-hmm.
But we have emotions and memories tied to sense and taste.
Mm-hmm.
And that's what I love about it, is I can cook you this dish that reminds you of your childhood or a significant part of your life. I love being able to do that.
But dude, it's like one of the few things that, regardless of where you're from, food is integral in like celebrations. Whenever your child is born, gets a promotion,
Right.
wedding, whatever, you celebrate with good food, drinks, good company. When someone passes or something sad happens, usually there's some food there for for yourselves and for your loved ones. And then, like, even when we were talking at the beginning of this episode, comfort food, man, things that, like, maybe when you're feeling a little homesick, you want a little taste of like something that reminds you of your mom's cooking or whatever.
Oh yeah.
Like, dude, it's just, food is incredibly tied into the human experience. And yeah, Russell is probably one of the best cooks I know. I can tell, Stephen, that you know your way around the kitchen. I don't think I'm that good of a cook, but I do enjoy it just because it's like, for me, it's just kind of a way to decompress a little bit, little distraction, whatever. But yeah, man, like being able to cook or just being able to just do some stuff like that is pretty awesome. Just and what it can do for and what it can do for other people too.
Oh,
like
for
you
sure.
were saying. Yeah.
And that's one thing that I miss about Texas is, we're talking about, me not getting invited to go tubing here. Like, I don't have a large group of friends here in Arkansas that I did in Texas. And I used to host all the time in Texas. I love cooking for people, whether it was, cooking, steaks on the cast iron inside the house, or grilling, a roast or a rack of ribs, or a brisket out back. Like, I was always cooking for people. Cooking and making cocktails are like the two things that I used to do for everybody. I mean, hell, one night, not too long before I got married, to my now ex-wife, I had, how many, like 20, 30 people over at the house one night, Jose. We ended up running into a couple people. We were out at the square in San Marcos, ran into a couple people from high school, and freaking everybody just came. And I was whipping up drinks and cooking food for everybody. And that's just one thing that, I really enjoy serving people, like you were saying. I don't drink now. I might have a beer here and there, but I don't drink now. But cooking is something that I miss doing for people. And, like you said, it's a part of the human experience, and everybody has to eat. So being able to cook something up that's going to give people emotions, it is special. So
was cooking something that also made the idea of hunting and fishing more appealing to you, Stephen?
Yes, the nose to tail philosophy is something I really like. Got into making my own tallow. I just like having control. So, for example, the meat I buy from the store. So I'll go to Sam's and I'll ask for the chuck roll, not the chuck roast, but I'm paying about $100 for a 20-pound cut of meat. And then I'm grabbing my knives and I'm butchering it myself. It allows me to portion out my steaks the way I want them. I'm getting way more meat. And I think on my last one, I paid $100. And when I got Denver steaks out of it, I got 3 chuck roasts. I've got tons of grind for burgers and stew meat. And then towards the edge of the chuck roll, you kind of get this like baby sirloin. Baby kind of ribeye. Essentially, what it came down to was about $3.99 a pound.
Oh, wow.
Once I cut everything up. So the money savings are there, but it's just like fly fishing. It's kind of intimidating to get into. But at the end of the day, you just find a fat seam or a soft tissue seam, follow it with your finger. You'll see where the muscle separates. Follow it with a knife. You're good to go. Like I said, it gets you more control. I like my steaks not like huge, but about 1.5 inches. And this way I get it cut every time. Perfect.
I like my steaks the same way. And that's one thing you were mentioning earlier about there's certain things you don't order when you go out to eat. Steaks is one of those for me. I will not order a steak because I know the way that I like it cooked, and I have my cast iron hot as can be. It's going to have rosemary, garlic, and thyme in it. Cook it with some butter, and it is going to be cooked rare every single time. And it's going to have it's going to have a crust on it. You take your fork or your knife across it, you're going to hear the scrape across, but it's going to be rare in the middle. And I can't. It's rare that you're going to find that out and about. And it's like, I'm not saying that I'm a great cook, but I know how I like my steak, and I'm not going to go pay $30 or $40 for a steak. That's not going to be the way that I do it. So I'm the same way when it comes to that.
Dude, we got to move on from food. Caroline's downstairs cooking jambalaya right now. I've been smelling it and holding it together this whole time we've been talking, but y'all are putting me over the edge.
Yeah, jambalaya sounds amazing. I love Cajun food, dude. Boudin, crawfish etouffee.
Dude, we have a life group at church here that they have a class that's led by somebody from Louisiana. It's cooking like a Cajun life group, and it's like, and they're doing their life group launch next week. I'm like, I think I'm going to join that life group.
Get you in the door, dude.
Right, dude. I freaking love Cajun food, and one of my favorite things, like next month and the month after, are going to be great because I know that there's going to be at least one crawfish boil I'm going to get invited to, and I always take the scrap. Like if they're going to offer it, I'm going to take the scrap. Of course, not the tails and stuff that everybody's bit off of, but any of the other ones and claws, and then of course my scrap, and then any spare meat. And dude, I make an amazing jambalaya with crawfish, and then I'll make a stock out of the crawfish shells and claws, and then I'll chop up the meat and then make it just like a normal jambalaya. Oh, it's so good. Make myself hungry now.
We're like torturing Steve.
Dude, I mean, it's easy for that guy because which classroom are you going to go into? The one with coffee and donuts, or the one that's assaulting you with the Trinity as soon as you open the door?
Right.
Pun not intended.
Yeah, I freaking love it. But hopefully, if I do join that life group, I will get some tips and tricks that I don't know, and be able to step up my Cajun cooking a little bit. Because that's one thing that there's not that good of Cajun food here in Hot Springs. There's a handful of places, and none of them are really good.
I've been disappointed by Cajun, barbecue, and obviously Tex-Mex.
Yep.
Moving up here. So those are the 3 that I'll do at home.
Surprisingly, the last time Russell and I went to the Buffalo, we stopped in at this little Tex-Mex place. Actually, wasn't too bad.
Yeah,
I was very surprised.
There's another one over in Murfreesboro. Have you ever been to the Little Missouri River,
dude?
Mm-mm.
So it's kind of like how you have a love-hate relationship with the Buffalo. That's my relationship with the Little Mo. I have been 5-6 times, and I've made it out one time without falling in the water. because it's a slick substrate there. And
Okay.
every single time I go, it's sub-freezing, and I fall in the water and end up getting water in my waders, and it's a miserable trip. And it's it's my love-hate relationship there. But every time I go over there, I do eat at a little Mexican joint they have over there called Talinga's, and it is true authentic Mexican food, and it's the only true authentic Mexican food I've found in Arkansas thus far. And it is so freaking good. And they got all the aguas frescas. The price is good. Like it's really good.
The
but
service is good.
Yeah, the service is great. But yeah, if you ever want to go get on some stalker trout and you're down in the area, the Little Mo's not a bad fishery to go to. So just of course, try to keep your footing.
Sure. I do need to give out one spot that I found that is worth the venture. It's a truck. It's called La Carreta. It's in Lowell, and it is the real deal. You're paying like $6 for 3 tacos. It's on a paper plate with aluminum foil on top.
Sounds legit already.
Got to pay extra for the rice and beans, but it's worth it every time. Dude, I'm just too hungry. We gotta eat before we do the podcast from now on, man.
Or better yet, we could do one in person. We can just cook before it.
Dude, that'd be sweet.
Potluck style.
Don't play with me like that. Don't play with me.
Come on.
Dude, we got to make it happen, man.
We do for sure.
We've never had an in-person podcast interview with anybody yet. We've been trying to figure out how we can do it. And then for Russell's birthday, we were thinking about having a special episode. It's coming up in April where we can do one at there's actually a guy in a fly shop on the coast in Texas who offered up his place if we want to do it there. A little special in-person episode there, but we just haven't figured out like exactly how to do it all.
Trying to figure out logistics. But my birthday is, like you said, your birthday was in April. Mine's April 26th. Our first episode launched on April 28th. So my birthday, the anniversary of the podcast kind of all falls in one. And so I want to do a celebration. This, I guess, is going to be the first announcement of it. I want to do some type of celebration. I don't know where. I would like to do it in Arkansas and find a smallmouth river and do it in the area. The thing about that is majority of our listeners are in San Antonio, Texas. So it's like San Antonio, Texas, Houston area, and then Sweden is like our third. And then from there, it's a lot of cities. I mean, I think we've hit 290 something cities and 23 countries. So we've been all over the place, but the top listeners are San Antonio, Houston, and Sweden. So it's like, do I want to be that far away from listeners?
Sweden ranking up there is surprising to me.
Dude, it's nuts. It's crazy.
That's
Jose,
cool.
when's your birthday?
November.
Okay.
Yeah. November.
My birthday is April 24th. So
oh, wow.
We should do this.
Yes,
Dude,
let's definitely do
I'll
it.
Go up to, maybe we, dude. So Stephen, I haven't told you, but Russ and I were talking. I'm gonna try to go up to Arkansas in March. So maybe we can try and work something out.
Yeah, dude.
Do a little meet up, fish, whatever, man.
Oh yeah, little cook off, little catch.
I mean, y'all can cook. I'll
sorry,
help.
that's not sporting amongst fly anglers. We can catch stuff and then go to the grocery store and cook stuff that we purchase.
Nah, cook sounds better.
See, I'm not the typical fly angler. I do believe in responsible harvesting. So, I mean, if we're going to catch something and we're going to harvest it responsibly, then let's do it. In fact, I did a catch and cook video. I haven't even started editing it yet, but it was stalker trout here in Hot Springs, and took my girlfriend out. She's into hiking and backpacking and stuff and camping, but she hates fishing, and she's gone with me a couple times. But we caught up some rainbow trout and cooked them up, and just right there on the side of the river. I mean, from the time that I hooked it to the time that it was in the pan was less than 5 minutes, and all I did was salt and butter and just on the fire there. And she's like, oh, this is so good. She was kind of iffy at first because I literally just cooked it with the skin on and everything. I said, eat it with the skin. It'll peel off the bones. And she was iffy, and she took a fork and she's like, oh, this is so good. And it was amazing. And so I definitely want to do that again.
Dude, it's so weird to me that, like, especially because I coming from the conventional side of things, like that tourney bass angler mentality where you throw all the fish back. You don't even think to keep it. And then people will like, it's like blasphemy to like keep a fish, even if it's, I don't know, dude. It's wild to me. And this was like, again, before I even got into fly fishing, but now as a fly fisherman, like I really don't care. Like I will keep fish from time to time. I haven't on a while, but especially on the coast because I love saltwater fish more than freshwater fish. But dude, it's mind boggling to me that people won't even like entertain the idea of keeping a fish from time to time. At least it's just crazy.
I went. I was having a pretty rough week at work. This is back while I was working in construction. My wife was like, "Hey, I surprised you with or she surprised me with a campsite at Parker Bottoms on Beaver Tail Waters, and we went out trout fishing. I brought some back. I got home and I felt like I had shot a songbird because I filleted 3 of them. The 4th one was like beautiful orange pink flesh like salmon. And I realized that that was a naturally reproducing trout that I pulled out of Beaver Tail Waters. That's the only time I've felt like, oh, I feel guilty. That one kept me up at night for a little bit. I was just like,
Yeah.
Some of them do hurt. Like I kept a spotted sea trout that was around 23 inches, which is, I mean, those take a long time to grow to big sizes. And usually it's the ones that are over like 18 inches are typically going to be female. And so I was like, I feel kind of bad about this one, but it tasted good. I didn't like, I'm going to just let it go to waste. So it is what it is, but it just means that for the future, I can be more cognizant and be a bit more selective about what I do keep and don't keep. But
Yeah. And majority of the time that I've kept fish is mainly if, I didn't set the hook soon enough or improper hook set, whether it's in the gill or anything like that. And it's not going to make it anyways. I would much rather me harvest it than just throw it back in and it's going to die regardless. So it's just having respect for wildlife, but it's seems like we're all pretty much on the same page with that one.
Yeah. So, I mean, yeah, like I think we're all catcher and release fishermen, but we won't turn our noses to keeping one every now and again.
Exactly. So, but we're coming up on about an hour and a half, which is typically where we try to keep our episodes at. So, is there anything else that you want to talk about with your businesses or any shameless plugs before we end it?
Yeah, I felt like I was pretty proud of us for making an hour without talking about food before we got back to it. Osage Creek Camps, we service kids age 8 to 18. I say 8-ish on that because if there are younger siblings involved, if I've got 1 or 2 kids from the same family, the older kid can normally keep a younger kid in line. I've taught kids successfully as young as 4, but it wasn't fun. I've got spring classes coming out. That's going to start in March. I'm doing them in Fayetteville and Bentonville. They'll be running March 25th and 28th to May 13th and 16th. I supply all the kids with flies, rods, and necessary equipment. We use the Echo Gecko rod. I adore that rod. I find myself pulling it out for myself more often. It is 3 and 4 weights, but what's great is not only are they shorter, what makes these different relative to like the Reddington minnow is the handle cork is actually thinner. So kids with small hands can get a full grip on this rod. So that's really nice. I'll also be doing a spring break camp. That's going to be 18th through the 21st. That's going to be at this time 3 different bodies of water, 1 each day, so that kids are getting experience on different types of water movements. And then in June, we'll be having all of our summer camps starting. We'll cut those off by the start of July, just so it's not like soul crushing heat. I do take pride in the fact that since we are a warm water fish camp, kids don't need to worry about waders. It doesn't need to be a huge, big trip. I'm teaching this kid how to find a creek and go fishing.
Yeah.
Outside of that, we have been picked up by University of Arkansas, their greenhouse recreation program. That is a outdoor entrepreneur support program. We're getting a grant and an intern, and we're getting to work with a bunch of outdoor entrepreneurs. That is going to be awesome, including our official partnership with Arkansas Game and Fish. So that means our fishing derbies, the outdoor nature centers that Arkansas has set up, will be starting to move into those spaces. Outside of that, I am available come March for fly guided trips. The way I do that is a little different than most guides. What I mean by that is, Jose, if you booked a trip with me come March 18th, March 14th, I'm going to call you. or a little bit earlier, whatever. And I'm going to say, Jose, what creeks are near you? What bodies of water are near you? Like if you had an afternoon to go fish, where do you think that you might go? And then I'm going to take you out there. I'm going to teach you about that water. I'm going to teach you what lives around the water and then teach you what lives in the water and then how to fish that water. By doing this, not only am I encouraging you to go fish more often because it's not like a once a year trout trip that you have to save up for and then you come back, sweet, that's great. I can't wait to go again next year. I'm getting you to go back to that spot again and again. If I get you to do that, you're going to take care of it and you're going to start getting upset when people trash your spot. So this is going to encourage you by giving you the tools you need to fish your water by yourself. I'm happy to help you out with that. I'm happy to take your money. But if you go out more often, you're going to be more comfortable. You're going to get more fishing trips per year. You are going to see in real time how decisions affect your water. That also means that you're going to feel more confident in bringing your friends out with you, bringing kids out with you. That's going to get more people on the water. So this is a more organic way for me to get more people fishing. And that is what Osage wants. We want more people fishing on the water so that they take care of the water.
That's awesome. I've never heard of any guy doing that before, but that's amazing.
If we end up getting a jet boat, I might start taking people on tailwaters, but I know plenty of people that are very, very good guides. And I figure I'll let them have their piece of the pie, and I'll be tackling all the smallmouth and other warm water natives.
That's awesome.
Carp too.
Carp
on the fly. We can talk about that later.
Yeah, you might have to help me. I'm on a carp mission for 2024. Dude.
No, dude, both of y'all are chomping at the bit, man. Y'all have been having some trials and tribulations.
Oh, absolutely, absolutely.
Yeah. To put it lightly,
we could probably do a whole episode on carp on its own, and probably be longer than this episode.
Let's do it. Bring Rob McConnell on too. 4-person panel.
Oh, absolutely. Dude, we should make that happen. We'll have to reach out to him.
Sick.
All of us, just blow him up.
Hey.
Well, we appreciate you hopping on. Where can people find you at?
So osagecreekcamps.com is our website. We also are on all the socials on Facebook and Instagram. And then my personal Instagram is STLONON. I did forget, we also do field trips. I have a lot of success in homeschooling groups with that. That's just people that want to get their kids outside. Mm-hmm. They're not really sure if they're going to pick up on fishing. I just go out, think kind of like a naturalist course. I teach them about outdoorsy stuff. We put a rod in their hands. They cast a little bit and I send them on their way. But Facebook, Instagram, website, osagecreekcamps.com. And that's about it.
Alrighty. Well, I'll put all those links in the description, and we really appreciate you coming on. I feel like, we have plenty more conversations that are going to be had, and you're always welcome back for another episode. But
for sure,
yeah,
we need to do a February food episode where we just talk about food until we can't take it anymore.
We need to, for sure, and that's going to be crawfish season, starting of crawfish season. So yeah, let's definitely do that.
Let's go.
We also need to have you on for your backcountry hunter and angler stuff too, man.
I do. About that. I will let y'all know once I have some more stuff for that. I would love to get the mission out.
Heck yeah, just let us know.
And we would love to assist in that in any way.
For sure.
So thank you for coming on, and to the listeners, we'll catch y'all next time.
This has been Wildlife Outdoors. Thanks for listening. Follow us on Facebook at Wildlife Outdoors and on Instagram at wild.life.outdoors. Let's go live life on the wild side.